Good evening, everybody. Sorry for my tardiness. I had some IT issues on my end. I am Ron Felder. I'm the PHEAA Higher Education Access Partner for Philadelphia. I support all its post-secondary and secondary schools for PHEAA, as well as the outreach programs and libraries for the state of Pennsylvania. Today, what we're going to be talking about is a little financial aid 101, the financial aid basics, the types and sources of aid, federal and state aid, 5 steps of financial aid, applying for aid, what happens next, and final thoughts. I see a lot of my wonderful peers on this webinar as my panelists. I've been working with a few of them for a couple of years, so I'm good company, and you are in good company as well. So thank you so much. If you're looking for PHEAA materials during this COVID-19 right now, you can order PHEAA.org. You can actually go to PHEAA.org and you can order them, and the materials will come in between 2 to 3 business days. They are free, so you don't have to worry about paying for it. Talk a little bit about financial aid. A big hot topic that a lot of young men don't know is that all men are required to register for selective service from the age of 18 to 25 in order to receive financial aid. If you do not register, you will not receive any type of federal aid or state aid. It is mandatory, but it's the only question that's directly directed towards the men. We got that's directly towards the men. I'm actually looking at the chat as well. Can somebody follow up with Maria in the chat box for me, please? One of my wonderful panelists. For my young ladies, if you've just been recently married and your maiden name is still on your social security card, can you please remember this? Whatever name is on your social security card as of the day that you fill out the FAFSA, that is the information that goes on the FAFSA. The breakdown of financial aid, and I see a lot of my, again, a wonderful group of financial aid representatives on here. This is how we really think that we're kind of smarter than the world, because this is our basic equation of life. Your EFC minus your cost of attendance equals your financial need. What is your EFC? Your EFC is your expected family contribution number. That number is determined based off of your 2019 tax information, the oldest living relative in the household, and which child or number of children are planning on going to college the upcoming year. The cost of your attendance is based off of your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses. The different types of financial aid. Grants are free money. So when we talk about grants, we're talking about the federal Pell Grant. We're talking about the PHEAA State Grant. And I really want you to understand that those are 2 separate grants. And I'll explain to you what makes them different in the next slide over. Next is your scholarships. Of course, scholarships are free money, but some scholarships you have to understand that you might have to keep a certain grade point average to maintain that scholarship. That is an academic scholarship. If you fall underneath that academic scholarship, you will probably lose that scholarship and you will encounter a balance. Please understand this. Read your paperwork in detail and understand that college is not free. Work study. Work study is a federal program, and it is allotted to students who usually have a 0 EFC or a little higher than a 0 EFC, but not too high. However, it is a federal funded program, and it's money that students can actually use for any educational purposes. Student loans. When we talk about the student loans, we're talking about the federal sub and unsubsidized Stafford loans. Those loans are in the student's name, not in the parents. So for my students, you need to understand this. These are probably going to be the first time you actually have a bill in your name. And the rumors are not as true as you think you are. However, if you do not pay on your student loans, yes, your taxes will be hindered. Yes, your credit will be hindered. You will not be able to receive financial aid to resolve this issue. And last but not least, they probably would garnish your wages. So it's very, very important, if you do take out any type of federal subsidized or unsubsidized Stafford loans, that you know how to, that you're responsible enough to pay them back. And there are different repayment plans. Now, the next one is the Parent Plus loan. This is in your parent's name. For my parents, I know this is kind of new for some of you and a little scary, but having a Parent Plus loan is not a bad thing. You're just taking you're taking a large financial, not burden, but responsibility to help your child with college, because you know they're investing in their education to be a successful working young ladies and men coming for the future, and educated as well. Private loans, there are private loans available. PHEAA does have a private lending services. It's called PA Loan Forward. I can talk to you about it later on down this presentation, but it is available. There's also a program called the PA Treasury of 529 plan. That is where a college saving plan, where a lot of parents have been saving since you've been born just for college, and they've getting the tax break, and it's really been helping them out, because instead of them coming up with a large payment right there, they've probably been saving it for the past 18 years, and it can help your parents with paying any remaining balance. Tuition reimbursement. Tuition reimbursement is available for for certain jobs, as well as for students of the parents that's working at the jobs. I would look into the HR department to find out. Military benefits. Yes, if you go into the military will pay for your education. The different sources of financial aid come from the federal government, state government, schools and colleges, and scholarships. And then here's your breakdown of your federal Pell Grant. $6,345 is the maximum amount of awards that you can receive for federal Pell Grant. Now, the cool part about it is, so I'm looking at Stephanie as she's on the screen right now. That's actually, if Stephanie can shake her head yes or no, that's actually more than Community College of Philadelphia's tuition, correct, Stephanie? So if you do decide to go to Community College of Philadelphia, students and parents, guess what? If you receive a full Pell Grant, you don't have to look at any type of loans. But that's all based off of your EFC as well. And if you have federal work study or federal FSELG grant, you can also receive additional funds to help you make sure that you don't have any type of debt, which will save you a long haul in the long run. Now, when we talk about the federal, I need you to understand the federal Pell Grant can go to any state in the United States with no issues. So when students are looking out of state and they say they're going to use their Pell Grant, they can use it. But if you want to use your Pennsylvania state grant out of state, Pennsylvania will only submit funds to Delaware, Massachusetts, Ohio, Vermont, West Virginia, and DC. And the max of student loan the max PHEAA state grant for this year is $4,525. However, if you're going out of state of Pennsylvania, we're only going to submit $578 a year to these states. So the rumor is true. If you stay in state, you get more money. Yes. However, PHEAA is also on a cost of tier. So depending on the school that you're going to and how much it costs, that's how much the maximum awards that you can get. I'll just give you an example. Drexel is a little on a high cost tier. So of course you'll get a $4,525. But if you're going to like a Community College of Philadelphia, which is on the lower tier, the max state grant is $2,407. Here's some other PA state programs that you definitely need to look into. If you qualify, you can receive additional funds. I'll talk about two real quick, two hot topics. The Chafee Educational Training Grant. The funds are actually admitted through PHEAA. However, the funds come from the Department of Education. So we just administrate the funds. We do not provide the funds. The funds actually come from the Department of Human Services. There is a separate application that you have to apply for the Chafee grant, but you also have to have a PHEAA on file as well. For the foster education tuition waiver, which is the hottest topic right now for any of my students who identify as foster care students, yes, the rumor is true. You can go to a state educational school for free based off of tuition and fee, based off of the foster education tuition and fee waiver. However, your room and board will be a little bit different because your grants can actually cover that for you. So if your student decides it's in foster care and wants to go to state school, they can ultimately have a free education, which is pretty awesome. If you're looking at any other PHEAA state grants, we do have a PHEAA PATH grant, which matches up to $2,500. You have to have a FAFSA on file and it has to be a PHEAA state approved school. For our trade school students, if you're looking to go to electrical, HVAC, or carpentry, we do have a PHEAA tip application where you can receive additional funds. You have to have a FAFSA on file and you have to complete the PHEAA tip application, which is separate. And here are my 5 steps to completing financial aid. I know this is kind of redundant for some of my panelists, but you guys kind of see this every day, and we're in financial aid season, so why not? First things first, you have to look for scholarships, students. The more scholarships that you have, the less debt that you encounter. The trick about college is you want to do this. You want to finish college in a fast time, and you want to finish college with the least amount of debt. Ms. Lyons would like for me to go back a slide, so I'm going to go back a slide just for Ms. Lyons, if you guys are okay with that. So Ms. Lyons, here are my 5 steps. And I'm back to step 1. You're welcome. So we talked about step 1. Please remember this. I'm a parent my son is about to go to college next year too, so I'm in this same predicament. I know I might look a little young, but I had him really young. Scholarships are very, very important because the more scholarships you have, the easier your financial aid, I call it your financial aid marriage, will be successful. The more free money you got, the less loans you got to worry about. And when you don't have that many loans, guess what? You can buy your house really fast, so you don't have to come back and live with mom and dad. Scholarships. There are national scholarships, local scholarships, regional scholarships, and post-secondary scholarships. Even at the community college level, there are certain scholarships available. It is very, very important that you always apply. Even when you become a college student, still apply, never stop. Here's a list of some free scholarships. And I will email this to your counselor after this presentation is over. So ladies and gentlemen, don't worry about pulling out your phones if you have it. Your counselor will have this presentation later. Know your deadlines. It is very, very important that you know your deadlines. Every school has a different deadline. The standard PHEAA state grant deadline is May 1st. And it's a hard deadline this year because everybody's home and we know you're home, and the application opened up October 1st. However, if you plan on going to Community College of Philadelphia, that deadline is August 1st because it's an open enrollment school. We have a certain type of agreement with CCP and Pierce College. Financial Aid 101, applying. You're using your 2019 tax information. You're not using 18, you're not using 20, you're using 2019. Know that you're applying for the free application for federal student aid. That is the FAFSA. That is applying because you're applying for federal grants, as well as federal work study, as well as federal loans. The application is available. I suggest you do not use your phone. You use a tablet, laptop, or desktop computer. If you have any questions about the FAFSA, the folks that work on the federal side work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, and their telephone number is 800-433-3243. The CSS profile is an application that's a little more intensified. Why? Because these schools are a little heavy cost tier. And what they want to do is before they give out the funds to the student, they want to make sure the student really needs it because these schools actually have a bigger endowment. And before they disperse those funds, they want to make sure that they give it to the right student who really needs the money, not the student who has the money. So they're asking, how much money do you have in your sock drawer? If you have an offshore account in the Bahamas, if you're hiding an island that you bought. You're gonna need your social security card. You're gonna need a valid email address. You need to create a FAFSA ID, parents, as well as students, 2 separate accounts. Student has to have one parent and only one parent has to have one. When you're logging in, am I good on time? When you're logging in on the FAFSA, you want to make sure that you're applying for at least the minimum. I always tell 10 schools, well, the max is 10 schools, but the minimum 8 schools. However, your first school should definitely be a Pennsylvania school on the FAFSA. Why? Because it will automatically link you to the PHEAA state grant application at the end. You do not have to know, you don't need to know the federal school code. All right, sorry. I got so much going on. I see about 3 windows, that's why. You don't need to, you do not need to know the federal school code, but you should know the state that the school is in, as well as the first 3 letters of the school. And you can actually pull up the school's information. Whose information goes on the FAFSA? Yes, the student, the biological parent of the same household, adoptive parents. If you're divorced and you have a new husband and new wife, new mom and new dad goes on the FAFSA. Step parents, yes. If they're in foster care, no. If they're in legal guardianship, no. If anybody else in the household, no, because they're independent. And what makes you an independent student? This is a big question for a lot of our students, because a lot of our parents and a lot of our students get confused of, oh, my child's 18, they're independent. Well, no, not really in the federal government eyes. If you answer no to all these questions, 24 or older, married, veteran, working on a grad level degree, emancipated minor, legal guardianship, orphan and foster care awarded a court, have legal dependents other than spouse, or deemed homeless, you are a dependent student. So that means you need your parents' information. And what a lot of parents don't realize, for the next 4 years or 5 years while your child's in school, they're going to need your help. So when you log in, parents, into your child's FAFSA on the parent side, you can go into the FAFSA, you can go into the IRS website, and you can pull your taxes automatically, which is really easy because it allows you to not make any type of errors, because that once we see it on the financial aid side, we know it came accurately from the federal government. Please put any assets that you have. 529 plans are an asset. You want to electronically sign the FAFSA. I got a lot of smart and valued financial aid folks on this panel, and they will tell you everybody should electronically sign the FAFSA because it takes too long for a FAFSA to process. It takes up to 6 to 10 weeks to process. And you can miss deadlines, you can miss scholarship money, you can miss school. After you complete the FAFSA, you will come to the PHEAA state grant application. At the bottom of the confirmation page, you want to click on that page. You want to click on that link. That link will take you to PHEAA's website. Our application is really easy. You are only selecting 1 college on the PHEAA state grant application, not 10, just 1. But if you need to change it, you can always go in and update it and change it. And if you do not have a 529 plan, you can say, no, I do not have a 529 plan. I just answered somebody sent me in a private message just now. So I don't know if y'all saw that as well. Okay. Special circumstances. We live in some interesting times right now. If you encounter a death in your family or reduced income / employment, unusual circumstances, financial hardship due to COVID-19, yes, you have the chance of receiving additional financial aid. You need to reach out to your financial aid office as well as PHEAA's offices so we can start the process. After you complete the FAFSA and the PHEAA, a lot of you students will start receiving a lot of emails. I cannot stress the values of importance of making sure you check your spam and follow up with your emails. Because you have to understand, the financial aid representatives are sitting in the office doing their job and stressing out too, and they don't need to be waiting for a simple copy of a social security card that can hold you up 30 days, which is ridiculous to me. Parents, make sure you know your information as well. Compare and contrast your schools. I'm a firm believer of really being transparent right now. Again, I told you my son is going to college soon. My son has Maserati and BMW dreams. I tell him every day we have Toyota and Honda Accord money. So if he's looking to schools that cost $50,000 a year, you know, my son is very much aware Dad does not have $21,000 a year to come out of pocket. I work for FEA. It's a whole different pay scale. Now, if you wanted to go to like a lower scale of a state institution and we're doing 20,000 and it was 8,000 or 8,500 a year, then yes, that's doable. But you have to compare and contrast what schools you can afford. Parents, it's very, very important you explain to your child what you can afford for the long run, not just for 1 year, but for 4 or 5 years. Your net price calculator is on every college website, so please take advantage of that. Again, FEA has a program that you can download. It's actually an app. It's called My Smart Borrowing. It allows you to select the career, select the school, factors the savings, and get the results. It's really awesome. It helps you understand the breakdown of your career choices as well as your financial choices going forward and borrowing needs. Subsidized and unsubsidized Stafford loan. The sub does not accrue interest while you're in school. However, once school is over, you have a 6 months grace period. After the 6 months grace period is over, that's when your first payment is due. The unsub does accrue interest while you're in school, and the same rules apply. You have a 6 months grace period. Once the 6 months grace period is over, that's when payments are due. If you cannot afford the payment, please reach out to your lender and they can work out different payment plans. Parent Plus is for our parents. You have to pay while your child is in school. Unless you are a student in school, parents, that bill will be due for you sooner than your child's. The max of dependent loans that you can receive for federal is $31,000 as a dependent student. If you're an independent student, it's $57,500. If you're looking at private loans, again, you can go to any bank that you choose or any private lending services. However, FEA does have a private loans called PHEAA Forward program. The rep name is Linda Pasevich. She's amazing. She really will sit down with you on an individual note, parents as well as students, to help you with any type of private loan funding that you're looking for your post-secondary education. And I'm on my final thoughts and wrap up. I hope I wasn't talking too fast. Is FEA only for state colleges? No, FEA is for Pennsylvania schools, for any school in Pennsylvania that's approved, as well as Delaware, Massachusetts, Ohio, Vermont, and West Virginia and DC. I got it. I don't know if anybody saw that private message, but somebody sent me a private message on it. Today, what we can do after everybody's done and you get done off the call with everybody, please apply for your FSA ID. Please do your FAFSA. Explore for scholarships. Do virtual college websites. Use the net price calculator. Talk affordability. If you don't want to talk about affordability with your parents, you feel, reach out to your counselor. Have these conversations with your counselor. FEA does have some information on FEA.org and educationalplanner.org. You can always look into these websites. It really gives you a more intensified answers of what you're looking for. And if you need any materials, you can order as well. Here is my contact information. If anybody needs it, feel free to email me. Usually I'll be in the field working every day like this, but due to COVID-19 and everything that's going on in the world, I've been working from home too, like everybody else. So please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Now I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass it over to your lovely host. And is there any question? Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for helping me and Alex and everybody for helping me in the chat, as well as Chris and Katie.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. Hopefully my side, the volume is working a little bit better now. At this point, I'm just going to let everybody go ahead, and if there's anything specific to your particular schools that you want to share as far as the financial aid process that might be unique to your specific institutions, now's your time for that as well. And we can still answer questions as we're going through and they pop up in the Q&A or the chat. So first, let's go on my screen. It's Stephanie, so go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Stephanie Zeppenfelt. I am an administrator at the Community College of Philadelphia. I've been at CCP for 6 years and in financial aid for 11 now. And I also do work with PHEAA, which is the state financial aid association, which has a scholarship, by the way, just letting you all know. And that's PHEAA.org. So at CCP, we don't require anything additional besides the federal process, whereas, you know, some schools that administer institutional aid might require additional applications or the CSS profile or something like that. We don't. We just require the FAFSA. Ron, you know, talked about that. The FSA ID, that's your username and password to basically log into your portal with federal student aid. I always explain it's just like Amazon. Keep that safe. You're going to need that every year you apply for financial aid. So the FAFSA is done at studentaid.gov, which is basically your portal for financial aid purposes. That's where you'll accept your loans, where you can learn about repayment and things like that there. So our priority deadline for the FAFSA is it's late. It's actually April 15th. It's going to be later than most of the other schools. However, I recommend doing it as soon as possible. What tends to happen in our office and all financial aid offices is that we get really busy in the summer. So if you can get the more done during the spring semester, you're not going to be like fighting to get through to talk to somebody. So when you do get through to talk to somebody, definitely get a name, an email address, a direct dial for them. Financially, it's a lot easier when you work with one person. And then let me think, April 15th. So where our students get caught up a lot is that they might not be aware that they have a school email address and they're not checking their school email. So once your I'm assuming once your application is accepted, I mean, for us, acceptance happens about like 2 days after you fill out your application. You get a CCP email, and please check it because that's where all of our notices are going to. Once you're enrolled, you're not going to be receiving information to your private email address anymore. So with financial aid, when you submit the FAFSA, it goes to the Department of Ed for processing, and they might select your FAFSA to, you know, submit documents, or perhaps there's a question on your citizenship or something like that. So there might be a request for documentation, and that's something you don't want to miss because some schools might put together your financial aid package. We don't put together your financial aid package until we receive the documents that we requested and everything's satisfied and been reviewed. So you could essentially do the FAFSA the year before, but if you don't submit your documents in time, you're not going to have financial aid in time either. So it's really important to keep an eye on that email. And then most schools have online portals, and we communicate with our students that way as well. Students can submit their documents and complete their forms online for us. And then in addition, if you have any questions about CCP right now, we're on campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays to answer phone calls, and we're always monitoring our email address at financialaid@ccp.edu. And I believe that's it. So, I mean, and like Ron touched on, if you are a full Pell Grant student, that for the most part covers the cost of your tuition and usually yields back additional money for your books and supplies. That's not always the case. It depends on what classes you take. Some of our classes are more expensive than others, but that's usually the case. So even if you're a loan-only student, usually the federal loans are enough to cover the cost of tuition at CCP.
Great, thank you, Stephanie.
No problem.
While we see if there's any questions specific to you, how about we move along and kind of let Katie and Chris tag team for Manor, because you guys are the next ones kind of on my screen. So
Awesome.
I'll let you guys.
Great. Can everybody hear me? Sound okay? All right, fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just kick off by introducing myself. And as Kathleen mentioned, I'm here with my colleague, Chris Hartman. My name is Katie Murt. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions at Manor College, and we're located in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. So we're just outside of Philadelphia, right outside the Northeast. I work on the admissions side of the house, but I work very closely with Chris to assist you through the financial aid process. And I do have a background in financial aid as well. So I'm happy to help you with questions along the way. But one of the big things that I kind of want to start off by saying is that if you're feeling overwhelmed or like this is a lot of information, I just want to remind you that it's okay to ask questions. I am going to put up, after Chris introduces himself, I'm going to pop up a slide just for a quick second so that you can take a picture on your phone that has all of our contact information at Manor College. There's also a QR code on there that you can scan, and it's going to take you to our website where you can register for an upcoming open house where we'll talk more about scholarships and other things that Manor has to offer. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll get that slide ready.
Sure. Hi, I'm Chris Hartman. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Manor College. I've been there just about 8 years now, which seems kind of crazy to me. It's been 8 years, but I've been doing financial aid for about 12. And like Katie said, don't hesitate to ask questions. We're a very small private college, so we work very hands-on with our students. A lot of our students are first-generation students, so this is all brand new to them. But yeah, that's kind of our little gist there.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just pop up this slide just so that everybody can take a quick screenshot, or feel free to scan that QR code. I'm going to pop it into presentation mode for you. These are the members of our financial aid team. So you can see Chris right on there, along with our colleagues, Rosie Rodriguez, Vera Turco, and Nick Swarich. You'll see that Rosie and Vera have the last names underneath each one of them. So Rosie typically works with students with last names A through L, and Vera typically works with students last names M through Z. So if you fall under either one of them, now you can kind of match a face to a name. And there is contact information for the financial aid office at the bottom there. If you choose to scan that QR code, that's going to take you to sort of our visit page. And on the visit page, you can request a virtual meeting with your financial aid counselor. So that could be Chris or Vera or Rosie or Nick. And you can set up a time to speak with us one-on-one. Or you can sign up for our open house, which is this Saturday. It's a virtual open house that's going to be hosted in a similar webinar format. And we'll go more in depth about the type of scholarships that we offer at Manor College, as well as tips and tricks for the application process. So I'm going to leave that up there for just a few more seconds. And I also want to reiterate too that our application is completely free at Manor. So as you're applying for admission, there's no application fee, and we will coach you right through the admissions process into the financial aid process. So we're really with you every step of the way. And as somebody who's more on the admission side of the house and not really on the financial aid side of the house so much anymore, I would say one of the biggest hurdles that a lot of our students face are not knowing what you don't know. Right? Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to ask a question if you aren't really sure of the language to, what language to say, or even what some of the acronyms stand for in financial aid. It can get a little intimidating. When I was a student, I almost felt like I should know these things, and I was a little embarrassed to ask because it felt like the fact that I didn't know it meant that I hadn't done my research. And I can't stress this enough. Please sidebar us, ask us questions, message us, one-on-one, and we will help you any step of the way and kind of get you over those hurdles. And Chris, I think that's really a strong suit of our office as well, is that you work really closely with students. What would you say is kind of the biggest hang up that you see for most of our students as they complete their financial aid?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just, like I said, a lot of our students are first generation. So just the whole process is, some students think they complete a FAFSA and that's it, and we have to, do that constant follow-up with them. But I think one thing that's really good with our two counselors, Rosie and Vera, is they were both my federal work study students at one point. And it just happened that positions opened up. So, I ended up hiring both of them. So they're really familiar with Manor. They both graduated from Manor. About 2 years ago, we started offering bachelor's degrees. So Rosie's going back to get her bachelor's degree as she's working now. So I think that's a really good thing for our incoming students, is the familiarity with Manor College. And Nick has been there probably about 12 years now, I believe. So, and Nick is more of like a senior counselor. He deals mostly with PHEAA, the scholarships, Pell, booking our loans, but he's a really good resource when we are very busy and we need, an overflow queue to help our incoming students or returning students. And I see students a lot myself as well. So it's very informal when you come into our office. It's very friendly. You don't have to feel intimidated. You just come and ask questions. And you know, that's kind of what we're there, or that is what we're there for.
Definitely. So I think that's definitely our strong suit. You hit the nail on the head, Chris. And, you know, just kind of reiterating some of the things that my colleagues on screen said. Ron mentioned this a few times, making sure that you're checking your email, that you're staying on top of the communications that are being sent to you. These things are really important. It's easy for things to slip through the cracks, especially in a crazy year like this, where we're really spread very thin. And a lot of us are, you know, we lose track of the day so quickly. Sometimes the thought of having to log in and, you know, complete something like a FAFSA is too overwhelming for the day. Please make sure you're checking in with the schools that you're applying to, making sure that you're meeting the deadlines that you need to be meeting, and asking questions along the way. And one other thing that I would encourage you to take a look at, knowing at Manor College, we offer institutional scholarships. So being a small private school, we do have some institutional money at Manor College to award incoming students who are academically high achieving. So make sure you're checking with the schools that you're applying to see if they offer any scholarships from them, in addition to the additional financial aid that you may be eligible for through FAFSA and PHEAA and other external sources. So check in with the schools you're applying to see what type of institutional aid they have to offer. And I think that wraps it up for Manor. Anything I missed, Chris?
No, I think that's pretty much it. And we do have, you know, institutional scholarships that we have a scholarship committee that reviews. So if a student needs additional funding, you know, and they meet the criteria, we try to help our students the best we can. Our tuition is very nicely priced for a private institution. So a lot of full Pell, full PHEAA students will be covered with, you know, Parent Plus loan denial. So it's very competitive for, you know, students coming to Manor.
Absolutely. And we, again, would love to invite you to our open house this Saturday morning. And that QR code that I posted earlier will take you right to it, or you can just head right to manor.edu and you'll see the link to register. And we'll talk more about the financial aid process on Saturday as well, and answer questions. So if there's anything you think of between now and then, we'd love to see you Saturday morning.
Thank you very much, Katie and Chris.
Thank you.
Again, if there's anything you specifically want to put in the chat, go ahead. Stephanie was busily typing while you guys were presenting. So Alex, that leaves you up now from LaSalle. So if there's anything that you want to share, thank you very much. You're muted.
Sorry, how's everybody doing? I'm having a little bit of issues, so if I cut out all of a sudden, I'm sorry, but mostly everything's really been covered at this point. Sounds very similar to kind of the process. Hopefully, I know it's going to be a little bit different no matter where you go. But for the most part, it sounds a little bit like what Manor does. We have our early decision deadline by November 1st. So if you have that application decision by then you'll get an early response, I think by early December, as far as what your merit scholarship would be like from LaSalle. And then typically after that point, we'll start sending out our award letters for incoming freshmen around like mid to late January. So that's the point where things really kick in. So you guys are doing the good thing now where it's early on, you're starting to ask the right questions, you're getting all the information together, but really things start kicking out once you get that award letter, and you really need to start deciphering all the information and comparing it with what you're getting back from other colleges, because the numbers can be confusing. I mean, you get a lot of, I think everybody can really attest to the fact that students and parents will come and be like, hey, I have this award letter from Manor, this one from CCP, and this one from LaSalle. Like, they're all going to look a little different, and you kind of have to make sense of it. So kind of what Ron and everybody else touched upon before, you're going to want to break down what you have as far as your total gift aid, meaning grants and scholarships that you don't have to pay back. But it's not even just that simple, unfortunately. You have your merit aid. So merit aid is kind of almost the best kind, but I'll say that because it's not really dependent on the FAFSA at all. So the merit aid that you get from your colleges, universities is going to be based off of your merit, so academic or athletic in most cases. So that aid is going to remain static for the most part as long as you're a full-time student. So really narrowing down what you're getting as far as those merit scholarships is really important. It's also important because those are the most competitive and they'll have the earliest deadlines. So for us, a lot of our scholarships, like we have a community service scholarship, that's like $10,000 a year. We have like a full ride for a Christian Brothers scholarship. All those deadlines are going to be in January. So you guys are doing the right thing where you're before that time, so you can do that research. And a lot of times, you know, students are first generation students coming here, they're coming still early in March or April to have these conversations, but they've already missed those important deadlines. And some of these awards are only for incoming freshmen, so it's not like you can apply as a sophomore. So again, you guys are doing all the right things right now. Make sure you're looking at all of the admissions, any of the merit scholarships, and then, well, for the merit scholarships, mostly awarded through the admissions office. So then the financial aid offices, what we're really doing is determining your eligibility for need-based financial aid coming from the FAFSA. So regardless, grants and scholarships are the best thing, free money. But it is important. One of the things that I think throws people off the most is that need-based aid is it's not guaranteed year after year. Again, generally merit-based aid is going to remain the same because you earned it, you were awarded it. Need-based aid is just coming strictly from the FAFSA. So if you have a change in enrollment, a change in housing status, that need-based aid that you're getting from the college or university could change. So that's something you want to think about too when you guys are getting these award letters, that you're looking at something for the first year, and students and parents will also come and they'll plop all these letters down and they're like, hey, what's my 4-year plan? And it's like, well, I wish I could give you that, but nobody really knows where anybody's going to be in 4 years. And we can't tell you what your eligibility is going to be for 4 years, because all of this stuff, unfortunately, you're going to be doing this 4 times. So you guys are getting ready to do this for the first round. You get your estimated costs, you get your estimated aid, and then you get your estimated balance. And that'll take you through the first academic year. Then you breathe that sigh of relief and you think you're done. But then that next October 1st, we already got to start thinking about the following academic year. So yes, very important to look at those award letters, but you want to think the long term too, because the aid is not always static. It'll fluctuate, especially for getting those outside scholarships and all that. So I'll type our, aside from that, I don't think there's anything radically different from really any other school. I don't know our open house dates yet for the spring, especially with everything being virtual, but hopefully we'll get those out soon. But I'll type in the chat our phone number and our email address so you guys can contact us with any questions, and I'm sure we'll be hanging out a little bit longer if you guys have anything more specific.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Alex. Actually, that is something that I'm going to do. This was recorded, and what I will do is once I do have this off the cloud, we will put it up onto our school website, as well as the contact info for each of you, so that anybody that didn't get a chance while we were here does get a chance to shoot you emails with questions if they've got them to follow up. Okay. Parents, students, do any of you have any further questions while everybody's still here? Okay. Galaxy SB. Type your question.
I think for the question that Susan Cook had, like Ron mentioned, a lot of schools, I know we have the net price calculator. So there's not going to really be much you can do at this point, but you can get an estimate of an idea. Most it'll give you what your estimated merit award would be, and what your need-based grants and scholarships would be, and kind of what your balance is. So it's not going to be an exact thing at this point, but you can definitely kind of play around with those numbers, especially since if you're doing it now, like Ron said as well, the base year for the 2021-2022 FAFSA is the base tax year is 2019. When you'll be doing the FAFSA for the 22-23, if I got that right, it'll be 2020. So yeah, it won't be an exact science, but it should be very close. I mean, I suppose you could start doing the FSA ID if you think you're going to hold on to that information and remember it. But if you lose it, it's kind of a nightmare, because once you have that FSA ID, it's like tied to your identity forever. So it's not as simple as like resetting something. You have to like call a phone number, provide proof of ID via email. It's a nightmare. So if you're an organized person and you feel like you can hold on to your username and password for a year, then by all means. But other than that, I wouldn't be too antsy.
I got a question. Somebody just asked me, when do you recommend submitting transcripts?
Okay, so the transcripts actually don't go out until you're actually applying for the colleges. So that will be during your senior year, the beginning of your senior year. For any of the scholarships, that would be as you're applying for those. So I've had students in the past who are able to bank scholarships and do start late into their junior year, but most of them are also through your senior year. So transcripts generally only go out during your senior year.
I'll just add a small comment about transcripts, especially in senior year. Having worked on both in financial aid and admissions, and having worked for large public schools and small private schools, I will say that a lot of students think that once they have their acceptance in hand, their senior year, they're good to go. Don't need to worry about senior year, just got to pass. And some schools, it's not the same for every school, but some schools do use senior year grades to determine eligibility for merit-based scholarship being awarded from the institution. So if you choose to kind of check out your senior year, maybe your first 3 years look excellent, and your senior year you're kind of coasting, and maybe you're happy with kind of more the average track, just because you want to relax and enjoy your senior year, you could count yourself out for some scholarship or merit-based aid that you would have otherwise been eligible for. So don't get in your own way, reap the rewards from your hard work, and continue to work hard that senior year, because even if your admissions decision is being made based on your freshman, sophomore, and junior year grades, there is possibility that you could be eligible for some scholarship with strong senior year grades as well. So just keep that in mind. Every school's different, but that's part of the research process, is to figure out whether or not those senior year grades are going to count towards merit-based consideration. So just a note.
No, thank you very much for Katie. Also, to piggyback on that is also the senior grades all throughout the year do matter, because when you read the fine print of your acceptance letters, there is always the caveat of this acceptance is contingent upon receipt of final transcript. So just as forewarning for all of our families and seniors, that senior year is not that year to check out, because you may get that initial acceptance, but if the grades fall too much, that may be taken away. So thank you very much.
Even at the community college, we have the 50th anniversary scholarship, which is available to students who are graduates of Philadelphia colleges, or excuse me, high schools. If you have to test into college level courses and be Pell Grant eligible. So that scholarship covers any remaining costs that the Pell Grant doesn't cover if you are awarded that. And also we moved away from placement tests for students who have met certain levels for on their transcripts on, so if you're not doing well, then you might have to take the placement test, and then you place into a lower class that is remedial versus starting off at the college level and not having to take a placement test. So just some food for thought.
Definitely.
And I thought of one more thing too, sorry. With the FAFSA, you can put up to 10 school codes on the FAFSA and have it sent to 10 different schools when you submit it. So any school that your son, daughter are thinking about going to, they can put up to 10 schools on their FAFSA. And I just always recommend even if you're not planning to go to CCP, just put it. You don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes we have students who can't make it work at the other schools, and then they're in our line in end of August, and we don't even have their FAFSA yet because they weren't planning to attend. So just something to consider as well.
Parents, students, any other questions? I'm not seeing anything. Waiting to find out if Lori had a question. Okay. I think we're gonna cut it off at this point. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight, for the wonderful questions from parents and family members and students. Thank you for your attention. Everybody, thank you for being present and participating. I appreciate it. And I will put up the video as soon as we can. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
So much. Have a good evening,
Thanks,
everybody.
bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.